In creative mode, you are a god. Infinite blocks, you can't die, you can fly anywhere. The game hands you everything and asks for nothing in return. So why did I spend 3 hours starting a flat world? Place a few blocks, tear them down, and delete the whole thing without ever saving it. No creepers, no hunger bar, no reason to stop. Just you and every block in the game, and I built nothing. Thought about the afternoon more than I probably should, because it wasn't frustrating the way dying to creeper is frustrating. It was quieter than that. It felt like the standing in the middle of a room you've been dreaming about your whole life, and realizing you have absolutely no idea what to do inside. The more you have, the less satisfied you are with whatever you choose, and the harder it becomes to choose at all. Schwartz spent years researching why, and what he found underneath the paralysis was darker than expected. It was that after you finally made a choice, you felt worse about it. With infinite options, you're always aware of everything you didn't pick. You built a tower and immediately think about the castle you could have built instead. You choose stone bricks and wonder if deep slate would have looked better. The freedom doesn't liberate you, it haunts you. In survival, you build with what you have. Dirt, wood, stone. The limitation is the creative brief. Your brain stops asking what could this be and starts asking what I can make it into. That's a completely different cognitive state. Constraint forces commitment, and commitment is what turns blocks into something that matters. In creative mode, the menu has 800 blocks, and your brain never gets to commit to anything. There's a word for what happens when you remove all the friction from a life. Satire called it being condemned to be free. He meant it wasn't a warning, not a gift. True freedom is terrifying because it comes with total responsibility. When you have no constraints, you have no excuse. Every choice is entirely yours, and if what you build with total freedom is mediocre, if you spend 3 hours in a limitless world and still produce nothing, there is nobody else to blame for it. In creative mode, you finally understand what he meant. Studies of lottery winners consistently find that within 2 years of winning, most report the same or lower levels of happiness than before. The money removed every practical constraint from their life. No more reason to work towards anything, and without the struggle, most of them quietly fall apart. Not because the wealth is bad, but because humans are built to solve problems, not to exist in the absence of them. Greek mythology had a figure for this long before psychology did. Sisyphus, condemned to push a boulder up a hill for eternity, only to watch it roll back down and begin again. Camus looked at that image and saw something most people miss. Sisyphus wasn't the tragic one, he was the human one. The struggle itself was enough to fill a man's heart. The point was never reaching to the top, the point was having a hill to climb. Creative mode takes that hill away, and without the hill, you don't feel free. You feel weightless in the wrong way, like you're falling through a floor that wasn't supposed to be there. There's one thing the void showed me that I didn't expect. When you fall into the void beneath a creative world, there's a moment before the game resets, you are just falling. No ground coming, no death screen yet, just darkness in every direction and the sound of wind that doesn't exist. And in that moment, the creative city above you, the towers, the roads, the empty plazas, none of that matters. You can't see it. You can't use it. It isn't protecting you from anything because creative mode can't threaten you in any way. In survival, your base is your shelter. In creative mode, your base is decoration. And there's a difference between building a shelter and decorating a space that doesn't need one. One is survival, the other is just filling silence. I used to think I deleted that world because I wasn't good at building. That's what it felt like at that time. 3 hours of effort producing something that looked like it was made by someone who had no idea what they were doing, which was true, but I've thought about it long enough to understand something different. The problem wasn't my skill, the problem was that creative mode promised me an experience it couldn't deliver. It told me that freedom was the ingredient I was missing, that if I could just remove all the friction, all the survival mechanics, all the pressure, the real creativity underneath would finally come out. But the friction wasn't in the way of the creativity. The friction was the creativity. Every great thing humans have ever built was built against something, against gravity, against limited materials, against time, against costs, against doubt. The Sistine Chapel, painted laying on your back on a scaffold, 40 feet in the air over 4 years. The constraint wasn't the obstacle to art. The constraint was what forced Michelangelo to make decisions, to commit, to finish. An infinite ceiling with infinite paint would have produced nothing, or worse, something that felt like nothing even after it was done. Which is exactly what creative mode produces. Not because you're not creative, not because you don't have ideas, but because ideas without resistance never becomes anything real. They just float, They hover. They look impressive from a distance and mean nothing up close. The world I deleted that afternoon is gone. I don't remember what I was trying to build. I don't remember what the blocks looked like before I tore them down. And what I remember is the feeling of closing the game and knowing I wouldn't open the world again. And I realized that feeling wasn't failure. It was your brain telling you the truth about what you actually need. You're not built for paradise. None of us are. We're built for the climb, for the problem, the limited resources, the night falling before the walls are finished. We're built for the version of the game that actually threatened us. Because a game that can't threaten you can't mean anything either. And maybe that's not just true about Minecraft.